Welcome to episode 95.
4-year anniversary.
Woo! Join us as we share some stats.
Some of our faves.
And of course, the Camino.
Because what else are you going to talk about when you spend 300 miles walking in the mountains of Spain?
That's exactly right.
All fun things from our 4th season.
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit Podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring 2 real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
races,
and backgrounds.
With a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true, our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 95.
4-year anniversary!
Woo! Yeah. Yay!
Yay!
Pretty exciting.
It's been 4 years.
It's been 4 years.
Since we started on your lawn.
Yeah, on my lawn. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We were in chairs out on my front lawn. Yeah, discussing this. And we first started recording. Well, we can talk about this later. But hold that. Let's put a pin in that. But before we do that, before we talk about all of our memories, why don't we kind of see where we've been for the past couple of weeks?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Would you like to check in first?
Sure. I'd love to. Turning off my fan. Sorry. There we go.
It's still hot down here in Texas.
It's still hot down here in Texas.
Above 90.
Yes, indeed. But it was 64 this morning when I was walking.
So nice.
It was gorgeous. Anyway, so we just did a retreat with some of the leaders and the lead facilitators in our circle. And I think the thing that a number of us were talking about was our numbers have kind of we're fewer. Mm-hmm. And so it's a small number of people who still have the same amount of quote unquote responsibilities. And so we were just thinking about what are the ways that we can still offer as much as possible, fantastic experiences for our women in a way that's sustainable for ourselves so that we're not burning out, we're not running ourselves ragged. And one of the things that we said as a group is that we don't have to, things don't have to look like they looked like last year mm-hmm. or the year before that or whatever. We can reconfigure, we can do different things, we can do things that are sustainable for ourselves. And I just found that was just such I needed to hear that because I had gotten really good a couple of years ago about protecting my time, etc. And things were starting to creep in again. And I was starting to feel overwhelmed, just looking at my calendar on certain days and it was getting kind of ridiculous. And so the retreat was wonderful for me in as much as, first of all, it took me out of a lot of the pressures of my day-to-day life. So I had the retreat itself. We actually we made a collective decision to half the number of things that we were going to try to plan. And so that we could actually go to the pool, sit in the hot tub, take a walk, which mm-hmm. is what we did.
A little mini Camino.
That's right. Because there were hills, weren't there? As we were walking out of the room, I was like, well, fuck.
We didn't have our trekking poles.
Exactly. And so it was wonderful because it gave me a little bit of a respite and it modeled for me the ways in which I can tackle, once I get back to my day-to-day life after the retreat, the ways in which I could, I could actually carve time for myself. And it's not, here's the thing, let me carve time for myself. No, the approach I need to be is, here am I, and then how do I make time for the things that I want to make time for? And the things that I don't want to make time for, how will I handle that? And so I had a deadline today, and I called the person and said, you're not getting it today. And the old Kimberlyn, which still is in there, but I'm building some new Kimberlyn on top of that. The old Kimberlyn would have been, they're going to hate me. I'm messing everything up. And it could be that both of those things could indeed happen, and I'm still the same person.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what's been going on for me. Just kind of revisiting and rethinking assumptions that I've made in the past. What about you?
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, sure.
Those must have been really cool priestesses on that retreat.
Yeah, there's some fabulous. I know one is right here.
Okay.
If you insist on outing me.
So my check-in is connected to our retreat, actually, as well, and connected to some reading that I've been doing before and after the retreat. But I wanted to share that I'm really unfolding this multifaceted new understanding of how it feels for me to live in this new understanding that resentment is the shadow side for me with giving and service. And I'm not saying this is true for everyone, although I fancy to think that it is. It is also true for others, and some others, not everyone, but some other people. I don't think I'm alone in this, but I've really been thinking about that. And much like I heard you talk about the reframing of, how did you say it? I'm going to fit self, like...
instead of me trying to find some room for myself in that big monolith, actually starting from me and then seeing what will fit.
Yeah. So similar to me, instead of doing it and then I'll just deal with my resentment later, what if I checked in with myself beforehand?
Girl, preach!
And said, and one of the things I've been saying is, would this be worth me being resentful over? Is that fair to them? Is it fair to me? And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, you know what, this is really important. I'm just going to need to like put on my big girl undies, pull my hair back in a ponytail, and let's go. Because it's really important. But other times I'm like, no, it's not really that.
Wow,
it's not fair to them. It's not fair to me. So it's just been interesting to see how it's showing up in all of these places. And it came up for me in my thoughts as we were doing some stuff at the retreat, about myself and the way I'm choosing to allocate my resources. And then what is that doing to my relationships and with myself and with other people? So it's just been really interesting.
I just find that so fascinating that we're going through different... I find it fascinating that what you're saying resonates so hard, like it resonating so much, like my body's pinging right now, like kind of like gonging, because I think that has been something that I've lived with for so many years, and thank you so much for articulating it so well. That's something that I think I lacked, was that ability to speak it. So thank you, first of all, for sharing it, and then sharing it so well.
Thank you. Aren't you an Enneagram 2?
Yeah.
Because I am 2.
Yeah.
TOO.
You 2 too? Yeah.
I'm a 2 too. TWOTO. And I think there's a lot in Enneagram 2s about this as well. So now because it's been so powerful for me, I'm thinking, and I didn't get this information from a Enneagram focused resource. So now I'm thinking like, well, I think I want to like look more into the Enneagram stuff. Resources on that. Yeah.
I have like 5 books that I'm listening to. And one of them is, The Enneagram for Black Liberation. Oh my God, it's so fabulous. It is really fabulous.
Could I listen to it?
Yeah,
or is
you
it
could.
Just for
No.
People of
no,
color,
it's,
like...
no. It's the Enneagram for people today who understand what our society is doing to us. Yes. So we'll talk. I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's
wow.
amazing. And thank you for also speaking the Enneagram too, because there's so much of this that I kind of just, it's like when people are depressed, they can't see all of the other things that would make their life, make their life better. When I get into this, I'm so inwardly focused that I don't realize that I have tools. Like there's ways of thinking about this other than the way I'm thinking about it. I get into a rut of thinking, shitty things about myself, right? And so, yeah, or shitty things about the person who forced me to do, so yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing. It's like, yeah. So, wow.
We didn't I just want to let our listeners know we did not plan.
No, we did not plan this
synergistic check-ins. It just happens.
No, yeah. It's the magic. It's the magic of Witchy Wit.
Of 4 years of Witchy Wit.
Exactly.
4-year anniversary.
Woohoo! Yay! So
let's do it.
Let's do this thing. So I know how much you love data.
I do.
And I believe like half our outline is data. So
it's just so interesting. I can't help it.
No, it is. And when you share it, it's really, really fascinating.
I find it so interesting.
I'm turning the mic over to you.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to share was some statistics on our total downloads. I'm really thrilled to say this. We are almost to 15.5 thousand. We're at 15.4 thousand right now. So we're nearing another milestone, which I think is really fun. So I also wanted to share some top apps. So our number one app that most of our listeners listen on is Spotify.
Now, has that changed? Weren't we Apple Podcasts last year?
Yeah. Apple Podcasts has been our top for a while. So that's interesting that Spotify is pretty considerably 34% to 21%. And then we also have some Amazon Echo, web browsers, and Overcast as our other top ones. So then the next is that I looked into what was our top episode for this season. Because of course our number one episode is number one. Our first episode. Which
logically that's the first one they're going to listen to.
Yeah, people would go and listen to that one first. So, which I find, can we pause for a second? Which I find really interesting because I'm like, I think that's a great episode, but we were brand new. We didn't have our recording equipment, it
was pretty sucky. I mean, when I go back and listen, the quality is not really good.
We were figuring things out. And then of course the irony, our number one listened to episode of all time, other than our first episode, is a Samhain episode where we accidentally recorded through the computer instead of through the microphone. And we didn't figure it out until after we were done recording. And so then, again, the same thing where I'm just like...
We cringe. It's cringeworthy.
Yeah, I'm like, why is that, the episode that people are
hear.
Is like...
So when they hear our voices, they're...
Yeah.
Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And, yeah. What are we going to do?
What are we going to go back and... I guess we could like script it and then re-record it and hope it sounds the same.
Yeah, one of my friends was like, well, can you just go re-record it? I'm like, yeah, but then we can't like swap it out. It'll just be a separate thing. So, but I mean, whatever.
Well, I know there's a couple of places where this is, these are like super whoopie do major podcasts where they'll have a re-edited or remastered, and then they have like stuff before and after, and then have the remastered thing. So maybe we can do that with one of ours.
Yeah, like Taylor's version.
Yes,
how she re-records her music.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. So that's a couple examples of our humility right there.
Indeed.
Okay, so our top episodes from this season, from season 4. So our top episode was episode 73. Ancestry. So our ancestors episode,
which is around Samhain.
Yeah,
I think people are like really tuning in at Samhain,
and I really liked that episode.
I did too.
I thought that was really, really fun. Then next up was episode 72, which was our eclipse episode.
Yes, yes, and I think about that episode every time we had a little mini lunar eclipse a couple of weeks ago, and every time there's another eclipse, I just think about it. So
same. And then to round that out, our third top episode was episode 81, accountability and conflict, which is one of my personal favorite episodes that we've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a pretty good episode, as I recall. Yeah,
I really liked it, and I thought it was interesting too, like. Because whenever we were talking about it, I initially suggested that we call it something else, like talk about like conflict resolution or something like that. And I really loved the way that you reframed it into accountability and conflict. So
yeah, I think and because a great deal of the process is we don't need to read. But anyway, the idea of by taking account, this is mine, that is yours. Let's discuss that. That's what the process is. So, taking accountability for what's yours.
Or I could just get resentful about it.
Or get resentful. It's the shadows. Yeah. Gotcha. Or we could just remain in conflict. Like we could just refuse to agree that, okay.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
But people do it all the time.
Yeah.
We're living with some of that right now. So.
Yeah. All right, some more information that I find really interesting. Our top countries that our podcast is played in. So I pulled out our top 5. Of course, the first one is the United States. 81% is like people in the United States. Next is Canada. That makes sense.
It makes sense.
They're our neighbors to the north. Now, then after this is where I find it gets really interesting. Then we have Germany.
That's always been kind of like our third, I think, pretty consistently. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Are there the witches in Germany?
Or there's maybe witch curious,
curious folks.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, people, I'm going to probably say this a lot the next couple of minutes, but like people from Germany, reach out. Tell us who you are, what you're about.
Yeah.
And then our 4th most popular country is Australia.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then our 5th most popular country, South Africa.
What? That's amazing. That's amazing.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool.
And just the thought that someone's listening to or at least downloading. I don't know if they're listening, but somehow, like their phone is automatically downloading stuff that they're not listening to. But that someone has subscribed or followed or whatever it is on your platform, us. In these places.
Yeah.
It boggles the mind and it kind of amazes and makes me smile.
Yeah. And I think as podcasters, it's a really unique and weird for me experience. We talk into this void and then to see this and to see on the other side that there's people in South Africa and Australia and Germany and Canada in addition to the United States.
Who are listening to us? Yeah. That we're sending it out and like we're pitching and someone's receiving. Someone's catching.
Someone's
right?
catching. It's not just like the balls and just like landing somewhere.
Exactly.
It's like being caught in South Africa.
Yeah. Let's throw another one. Yeah. No, that's true. And it's nice to hear.
Yeah. So then maybe a little more specific. The top cities.
Okay.
So some of these are kind of interesting. So our number 1 city is San Antonio.
Which is no big
surprise.
Thank
you so much to our circle.
San Antonio!
Thank you to our circle and our friends.
Indeed.
Next up is Austin, which is our neighbor to the north, much like Canada to the United States. Austin is to us. Then after that, we have Los Angeles, California.
Oh, I think part of that's my goddaughter.
Okay. Thank you, goddaughter.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so then this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh my
gosh,
more
interesting.
Yeah.
So then our 4th biggest city is Frankfurt on Main in Germany.
Yay! Hence the Germany.
Yeah.
Wow, sweet.
Yeah.
We spent
we did
like 16 hours in Frankfurt last year. Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Please reach out, Frankfurt people.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. What do you like about it?
Just like a little mini coven in Frankfurt, maybe that's going on. I think that's cool. Okay. The next
Ypsilanti. I'm sorry.
What is it?
Ypsilanti.
Oh, that's Ypsilanti?
Yeah.
Okay. Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Sweet.
Yeah, is next.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Let's make that a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
So hopping back to the United States, we've got and then Zapata, Texas is another one. Then New Braunfels, which is basically like a suburb-ish type thing of around us.
Very close to San Antonio.
Very close to us.
Between us and Austin, in fact.
And then we have Ashburn, Virginia.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Pflugerville, Texas, which is just outside of Austin.
Yep.
And just for fun, in case people are listening who aren't from here, Pflugerville is spelled Pflugerville. Pflugerville is what it looks like.
Yes.
And then to round out our top 10 is Forest Grove, Oregon.
Yay.
So again, like, I just think it's so neat to see, like, certain things don't surprise me, like San Antonio, Austin, Pflugerville, like, all that makes sense. But some of them are really unexpected, like our German coven that I swear exists
in Frankfurt. Yeah, Ypsilanti is one I'm like sitting on because it's like I just think it's a wonderful word to say, right? Ypsilanti. Okay.
So the Frankfurt one kind of got me curious. So then I went in, I dug up some details on, okay, so then what are our top international cities? So if we only look at the top international cities, what are they? And then some of this was really interesting. So our number one is, we already said it, is Frankfurt on Main in Germany. Number two is Regina in Saskatchewan in Canada.
And they may actually call it Regina.
Regina?
I think.
Seriously?
I could be wrong about that, but yeah.
Who knows?
I know that there is a Regina somewhere else in Canada. So, which, my Regina.
I don't know how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then number three is, do you know how to say that?
Pretoria. We are marching to Pretoria. No, I shouldn't be singing that because I think it's the Boers or somebody. Not the Boers, but the whatever. Yeah, never mind. But Pretoria. Let's go on. Maybe I'll edit that. Wait. Pretoria.
And that's the capital of South Africa. I didn't know. I had to look it up.
Pretoria.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Woohoo! So Frankfurt, Regina, I think. And then Pretoria.
Wow.
Top three.
There you go.
And what are some of the others?
So then I was like, okay, this is, I was having too much fun. So then I just scrolled through and I wanted to see just a couple more. Krakow. And then, so that's from Lesser Poland. And then Kuwait City.
Yay.
Which is the capital of Kuwait.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. I mean, sweet. Can you believe that they're like, Kuwait someone is Poland?
Listening. Yeah. I barely believe that someone in San Antonio is listening.
Right,
so,
that's true. That's true.
This is all boggling my mind. So.
Still, whenever some people, like one of the women on our retreat, like kept mentioning things from our podcast, and I was like, I kept being like, in my mind, I'm like, somebody listens to it? Because we're just talking into this microphone.
Yeah.
So
we don't know. Yeah.
Again, just really cool. Thank you so much from all these different places.
Yes.
No matter where you are, even if you're in the United States, we love hearing
for sure
from y'all. So like reach out to us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We would love to hear from you. Okay. Favorite episodes. So I thought we could maybe share a little bit.
Oh, sure.
So favorite episodes from season 4.
From season 4 for me was, so we did a number of Camino episodes, but my favorite was the Camino Primitivo episode. It was episode 82, Camino Primitivo Finisterre, because to me it was regardless of the fact that it's called the Camino de Santiago, we did the Camino Finisterre as well, but that was my ultimate goal. The other, I wanted to go through Santiago because I wanted to do the thing, but we had done so much research, and it wasn't just the research, it was like this kind of, for me, this really beautiful, evocative combination of like all this geeky history and then the mystery and then the magic of all of the things that we were discovering through history, about how people were looking at Finisterre. And then, what was amazing was at the time, I had no idea how we were just scratching the surface in our episode and how more real the experience would be. But even just the preparation that we had to do for that episode was evocative for me. Was just I just felt so magical, even as we were sharing quote unquote facts. I'm doing air quotes. And so it was my first real, okay, this might be what it's going to feel like. And so it was not just the episode, but it was all of the things that episode evoked for me. Yeah. What about with you? Oh,
well yeah. So I picked something else, but I want to share before I share the other thing is that I picked something else because I figured you would talk about that, and I wanted to do so. I wanted to bring something else to the table, the Camino episodes were my favorite, just because learning about that history and then having the privilege of going there and seeing the things that we learned about and then learning more about those things. For example, researching the Queimada and then getting to do it, and then having my mind blown, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I had read it, and there's just it was such a, just, wow, what a powerful experience.
I agree. And I think an important part for me is because we did a series, we would do research. We would do research for the second or third or whatever. And it would keep bringing us back to the first one. You know what I mean? So they were interwoven, even though we had separate topics. There was so much context and local color that would take us kind of cross topic. That even though we have a series, you want to, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the series and go back. That it was an ongoing, for me, labor of love.
And I was actually surprised so I listed out when I went back through. I kind of categorized our episodes a little bit, because I think that's fun too.
Yes, you do.
And I was surprised. We did 5 episodes on the Camino.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm
looking at it. So.
Yeah. I didn't think we did that many, but we started off with the mystical Camino, and that one was just a kind of an overview of the Camino de Santiago as a Christian route, and then
how we were going to look. How we were looking.
We were going to look at it from a different.
And that was episode 75.
Yes. Yeah, from a different perspective. Yes, episode 75. So then our next one was episode 80, the Camino Primitivo Prehistoric Roots, ROOTS, and Roots, ROUTES.
Yeah, and again, this is where, like, the first one was more an introduction. This was where we started, like, diving into the really juicy mystical stuff, and a lot of the information that I had known, or quote unquote had known, really became real for me. So I kind of knew this, I kind of knew that, but by digging and saying, okay, how do I know this? Then that realized it for me. It made it so much more made me so much more open to the experience. Yeah.
And something that I've noticed, especially since doing the Camino and being back, people, I noticed that most people, when they hear the Camino, they think of the Camino Frances. So that this was a really great time for us to say, like, that is a route, and there are many routes. We're talking about this one specific route, which was the Primitivo, and setting that apart from the other routes.
Because it's so hard.
It's so hard.
And my thinking is that's why there's so many other routes, because people are like, no, not doing that.
Nope.
Let's take this gradual one a little further south. Let's avoid the mountains,
shall we?
Let's
avoid the mountains.
Like, do we have to go through the mountains?
We're just going to go straight through the mountains. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the one that was done by the prehistoric folks, because they didn't, they had no other options or whatever. There's like, what is it? The best way over is through, or something like that. Yeah. So that was Roots.
Yes. So then after that, we did episode 82, Camino Primitivo Finisterre,
which was my favorite.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, that's where we focused on not just ending in Santiago, but ending in Finisterre.
Yeah. Ending at the end of where the land meets sea meets sky, and oh my gosh. So again, but in talking about that, you have to talk about the prehistoric roots, and you have to talk about the prehistoric roots.
Yes.
So they cross-fertilize each other so much.
And then after that, we did episode 85, Camino Primitivo Preparations.
where we, the naives that
Sweet
we were.
Summer children.
It's like, okay, I got my K-Tay, and I got my L-Tay, and I'm going to bring, I can't even remember. We need to go back and listen to that. It's like, I know that as we listen to that, little ones.
Oh, and me, I'm running on the treadmill with a weighted pack and my shoes. Oh no, Leilani, you should have been doing the stair stepper.
Well, exactly. And me, I'm doing these really, really, really long hikes, 8 miles, 10 miles. And then I'm also doing a hike where you ascend something like almost, 300, 400 feet, and you're climbing over rocks, etc. What I should have done to really prepare is do that, that really tough route 20 times in one day. Then that's the preparation for our Camino.
Yes, ma'am.
But who knew?
Who knew?
We didn't know. We were so prepared.
Oh, so bless our little hearts.
So yeah, that was episode 85. Yeah. And then in contrast, we had, episode 90 was while we were on the
Camino. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at one point in episode 90, I reflected, I never considered how journeying to the end of the world would make me feel like I was dying.
You forgot, like you thought it was going to be more like spiritual emotional, spiritual. No,
my body was like, you're dying.
You're dying, little one. You're dying. We'll get you to the water. It's your job to jump in. Yes, yes, indeed.
So that whole Camino thing was just a real journey.
It was a real journey, and I'm so glad that we made it a part of the podcast, and that it wasn't just something that you and I did, but we could share. And I got feedback from a number of people who said they appreciated that, being able to kind of, vicariously and enjoy. Well, maybe they probably did enjoy it. We enjoyed it too, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I very much enjoyed
but
certain parts of the experience.
But they felt like they could go on certain parts of that with us.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm still sore, by the way. I just want to let everyone know. It's been over 3 months. I'm still sore. Oh my God. My knees are still sore.
You were gutting, though. I'm still picturing you going past those 2 wind turbines.
Oh my
in horizontal rain.
Screaming into the void that I was not going to give up.
Like, you will not best me.
You will not. And then the taxi goes by with the people in it going to where we're staying. Oh,
we'll pray for you.
Yeah.
You did.
I'm gonna pray for you. So the Camino was definitely something really unique, and I'm thinking that it's still a goal of mine that I would love for us to put it down in written form.
Still part of my plans.
Still part of the plan.
Yeah.
So that we can have a resource for others who are interested in it.
Yeah. So I know we haven't yet talked about your favorite episode, but let's finish talking about the Camino, because I'd like to just share a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Just one of the things that as we think back on this, it will probably come up in future episodes as well, because I'm still having insights from that, and I think some of the processing that I did during that trip will bear fruit at later points. But just a couple of things that I just found, and I think that this might be the experience of other people, or similar experiences might be had by other people who do the Camino, is we basically had one job. It was just get up, eat some breakfast, get our luggage down by 8, and then just walk. I mean, we didn't have to, we texted each other every once in a while, or, and maybe, I don't know, but all we had to do was walk. And then we got to our hotel, because we didn't do the albergues. I'm just saying, we did the hotels, and we take a shower, eat dinner. I use the Theragun on parts of my muscles, and then we go to bed, and then we get up the next day. Wash, rinse, repeat. But the idea is I could be so focused on just walking and not worrying about, I need to get lesson plan. It was just walk. Just walk. And that was, if people can, I'm going to suggest that if you can have the opportunity to do something where it's just one thing, meditate, walk, where you can just be totally present, it is such a gift. It is such a gift that I don't give myself enough. And I realize that, So what
could I ask you a question real quick? Do you feel like you would have had that experience had you done the Française, where there would have been so many people?
I think I'm too social, and with other people, particularly if they're walking at my tempo, I'd probably start talking to them. It would be it would probably still be a good Camino, but it would be a different Camino. And quite frankly, I really love the one that I had, so yeah, thank you that's a great point. Yeah.
I consider that too. And cause in contrast to you, I had chances to walk with people or to walk by myself because I could keep up. Like I found people that I was similarly speed with. But I chose almost every day to walk by myself because I wanted the time alone.
Of course. Yeah. And part of that was I you know, it was just gorgeous. And I, like we were talking earlier about focusing on ourselves, right? We could just focus, well, I could just focus on putting my foot so that I don't twist my ankle among all the boulders, you know, but it was just me. It was just me and the experience. And it was, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was like, even when we were hurting, it was still gorgeous. Like the brilliant green. I just remember that. If I remember nothing else, the green, I remember like every day we were walking by water. And that, for living in South Texas, that where it, you know, you see the sign that says creek, and all you look at, you just see some dirt and rocks, right? You know, so that to me was so magical.
I think there was something else that was really magical for
What's
you
that?
too. The cows.
The cows! Yes, and in fact, we talked last year about a book about a woman who called The Mystical Camino, a woman who was going through a lot of goddess spiritual work, and she did the Camino. She did the Frances. And one of the things that she noted, I was just rereading it this week, and one of the things that she noted was, we mentioned this in our Roots episode, is that one way of thinking about the Camino is the Milky Way. And, you know, that because at night, the path kind of follows the Milky Way. And she made the connection between cows, and she had a dream about the goddess Hathor.
Oh my gosh.
The cow-headed goddess.
Yes.
And the milk flowing from the cows, and as you're walking, it's kind of like this synergistic connection of a live animal with the most soulful eyes I have ever seen in my life. And they're willing to just sit there and contemplate you and chew their cud, you know, and let you just stare at them forever. They don't get, like a dog or cat, if you stare at them for a while, they get kind of antsy. The cows are like, chew, you know, oh my gosh. And that connection with them, with the stars, with the Milky Way, because they give milk. I'm getting kind of like goosebumps as it is.
What a connection that I didn't make before or during or after until hearing that from her in her book.
In the book, yeah. So we'll probably talk about the book again as I finish
Camino.
it. Yeah. But anyway, what about you?
So I'm just really grateful for our experience together on the Camino, and then in the podcast. I think that I get along with almost everyone. Like, I'm able to navigate social situations, interpersonal relationships really well. I do not travel well with many people. So,
well, first of all, may I chime in?
Sure.
You model like human interaction sometimes with very, very difficult people. I mean, and I wouldn't say it's like you don't strategize, but I think maybe it's perhaps a gift that you have, that you're able to, you know, to help people do what they need to do without it necessarily like beating you up, right? But yeah, you model that for me, because sometimes it's like, I can't be bothered with these people, and you're like, okay, so tell me more. Like, yeah. And traveling is hard.
Traveling is hard. And then we were not doing easy vacation travel. So like I was like literally having breakdowns in our room, you know, like where I was laughing / crying hysterically, you know.
That's right. And then you put on your big girl panties and went out and bought duct tape.
I did. And so like for me, that was really, I think one of my biggest takeaways was just how self-reliant I can be. How I can be in a foreign country where not only do I not speak the language, but now they're not even speaking Spanish. They're speaking like Galician, which is like this dialect of, like connected to Spanish and other things. And it's just, you know, so like now I've descended even further into like not being able to communicate very well with people. Although I will say you and I were, unlike other people we ran into,
we made the effort.
You were phenomenal. I was trying. You were great.
We made the effort. Yeah.
Although I loved it when you would slip into French.
No, Italian.
Italian. Yeah.
Like, dang it.
But then to know that like I could be there and my bag could literally split in two, and I would go. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go find duct tape in a town that I don't know and a language that I don't understand, and so I'm just walking around this. First you spent a half hour giggling on the bed, or giggling and crying, hysterical crying. Yes.
So you had a little bit of a meltdown.
I did.
And then you got up and you got your Google Maps.
I did, and I
came back with duct tape.
I found a picture of a roll of duct tape, and then I walked around to stores, and whenever I wasn't having any luck, I thought, who would need duct tape in this small rural town? Farmers. So then I started going to farm supply stores, and that's where I found the duct tape.
Which is, like you say, that self-sufficiency, but that ability to land on your feet and get duct tape in a small town. I mean, this wasn't like a huge city.
No,
in a small town. Where, like you said, you don't speak the language, and at least with Spanish, you could use Google Translate.
Right.
Galician is not in
Google Translate,
and you can't even figure out what they're saying. So it's not like you can type it in.
I would just show it to them, and they would either look at me like, and I knew, they don't have it, or one person lit up, and I was like,
yes,
and then I started crying in the middle of the farm store. And then I went and got ice cream on the way back because I was like, I deserve some ice cream.
You certainly did deserve some ice cream. Yes. Yeah.
So just that self-reliance and like that my body is strong and can do way more than I thought. Though it still hurts.
Though it said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do what I can for you," and then
3 months later, my knees are still hurting.
and then we're gonna take a little time for me.
But my body, my mind, and my spirit, I went so much farther than I thought I ever would.
I would imagine that for a lot of people doing the Camino, that's a big part of it. That that they did it. That they did, regardless of what their experience looked like or their Camino was. They did it. They started at the beginning. Most of them ended at the end. Now, things were probably not real pretty in between. There were some days, but they did. I just remember coming into the plaza outside of Santiago, and there were people that I had seen like 4 days in and hadn't seen, and they came up and hugged me. Yeah, it's like we did it.
We did
whatever it might have been. We did it.
Yes.
So, did you have any more reflections on the Camino or our Camino episodes?
I'm just really grateful that we did it together. We did the episodes, we did the research. I learned so much, and it really felt like we entered with a sense of reverence for those who had gone before us. I believe that they were walking with us, and then coming back and recording more episodes and then hopefully writing that book. I just think it was a really robust experience in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure. Good, thank you. But we digressed. We were talking about our favorite episodes, and then we just went because my episode was the Camino Finisterre. We just went to the Camino. So would you care to share a little bit about your favorite episode?
My favorite episode was the
that's right.
accountability and conflict episode. It really helped me learn a lot about that and the process and wanting to think about the accountability piece in conjunction with what that means about conflict.
It's so interesting to hear you say that, because you're the one who brought conflict resolution to our circle, and up until then, I don't know how we probably just talked about each other behind our backs, so I'm not quite sure how. Yeah, I'm sure that there were some healthy ways of handling it, and tons of not so healthy, because I remember that, and so I love the fact that even though you were really steeped in this, that you're open to how it can be expanded and different ways that it can work.
Well, and I think we had a really interesting conversation amongst our circle about some people from our circle about what does successful accountability or successful conflict resolution look like. And what I think one of the things I learned is that it might not look like we all sit around and sing Kumbaya and hug afterwards and we're BFFs, right? You know, perhaps the person saying through their words or their actions saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, what you're asking for is not something I'm willing to give. I mean, maybe I'm now really thinking about, well, maybe that does mean that it worked.
Oh yeah, no, I think it worked. And I agree. I think it worked, and I think I would suggest that if we focus on the process, we can see it work. If we have a conceived idea of what the outcome would look like, it might look like it failed. Right. But I would imagine the only way the process wouldn't work is if you're not doing it. You know what I mean? If you're not, trying to follow, so that everyone can feel like they're being heard. Right. But I think the process works. And what I find is that sometimes what happens at the end is not what I pictured, but if people put in the energy, the process works.
I think of taking that lesson that I'm learning from our circle and applying it into my own life, that if I really allow myself to think bigger, like something you say is this or better, that if I have those preconceived notions about what is it that I'm wanting from this conflict resolution, well, I'm wanting them to say that they were totally wrong and I was totally right, and that they're really, really sorry and they're going to do exactly what I want. Right? Like, yeah. Like, that's pretty narrow,
And lots of luck.
Right?
And let me know when you make that work so I can try it too.
Because I'm sure like the other person is thinking that exact thing, but the opposite, right?
Right, exactly.
So if I like free myself from that false binary of like, I'm right, they're wrong, then really there's so much more richness there. And oftentimes it ends up being better for everyone, including me and the other person. So, but boy, it's hard to disconnect from my ego, so that episode just continues I probably think about it a couple times a week.
Wow.
So it continues to really like gel with me.
It reminds me of a friend of mine from a different group that said that, I'm trying to remember how they put it. It wasn't that they liked conflict, but they said they loved working through conflict resolution. They didn't. It's not necessarily that they loved the conflict, but and it's not like for me it's like, okay, we need to do this because this is going to be healthy for the group. Kind of like I've got to take that medicine or whatever. But this person said they would volunteer to do conflict resolution or accountability processes with people because they loved that process. They loved the articulation of desire and need and hurt, and the effort that people put into really saying what they want to say. Because it's hard to find those words. And when someone said, "Did I get what you said?" and you're getting the opportunity to say it again. How often do we get that?
Yeah.
Unless we're shouting or browbeating someone out in the real world, out in the mundane world, right?
Yeah. And the number of times that this has both happened to me and I have done it, where, did I get that right? No. How could I not have gotten that right? I was listening. Well, I didn't hear,
I'm going to suggest that it wasn't that you didn't hear or they didn't articulate it well. A friend of mine said miscommunication happened. So it didn't, let's not worry about who did what, but let's see, let's try that again. Let's do that, or let's try different words or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and even like to bring us back to the beginning of the episode with resentment and like me feeling resentment, I kept having trouble when I first was reading about resentment being this shadow side of service. I would like put the book down and go to work, and I'm working, and then maybe I'm like driving and I'm trying to think about it. I can't even remember the word resentment. I'm like, what was that word?
Oh my God.
I think it started with an R.
Oh.
Regretful. Like I couldn't remember it. And then I would go home and I would open my book and I would, resentment. Okay. And that happened to me. It happened to me enough times that I realized it was a pattern where I was not remembering resentment. And then I'm like, why am I not remembering? Well, isn't that interesting that my brain is like, definitely not going to remember that word.
Wait, denying. They're like, what word?
Right?
What word?
Error 404. No word found.
Yeah, no word here. Move on.
Right, moving on. Definitely not that.
Wow, which is insightful.
Yeah,
and so much of the process for me is about insight. Insight into what the other person is saying, and then actually insight into myself. When I I thought this is what was going on. Let me sit for this, because they asked me, did I have that right? Oh, let me think about that, because I had my go-to that I've told everybody and my mother and me. And then, but is that really what I want to say? Wow. And that process gives us the opportunity to take, not to take it back, but to add more, to amplify.
Mm-hmm. And I think kind of bringing that to this 4-year anniversary episode, that's one of my biggest gifts that I've received from doing this podcast with you is insight into myself, insight into my spiritual practice, insight into learning about other spiritual practices, the dynamics of our group and of our spirituality. I have received so much insight from it, and I'm so grateful.
Oh, me too. I was gonna say, look at you closing the loop. It's not just us like spitting out in the wind, when not spitting out in the wind, but
spitting into. Okay. Well, isn't that a saying, like spitting into the wind? Because it comes back at you.
Like, okay, maybe it's not us just talking to our listeners. Mm-hmm. It's also us having a conversation, and just as with a conversation, it's a process, and in the process of the conversation, we change. Mm-hmm. And so we started the episode, Leilani 1.0, and mm-hmm. but the process of having the episode makes you Leilani 1.7 mm-hmm. or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then the Camino made me like Leilani negative 5.2. And
oh, no. The Camino made it Leilani 10.25. But, like that's the marketing because that's what's going on. But in the meantime, behind the scenes, there's some stuff to catch up to that. But yeah, you did that. Yeah. Oh, so this has been, it's been a ride. It's been a 4-year ride.
Yeah, 4-year ride.
And, we're still riding. So,
mm-hmm.
I think we say this in every anniversary, but, one of the podcast, subscriptions I have, one of the topics that constantly comes up is, what do you do when you're starting to run out of material? And our list is constantly expanding. Like, we can't die. We can't stop it. We can't stop the podcast. We can't die because we've done maybe a quarter of, and every time we do an episode, we add 3 more mm-hmm. topics in that. Oh yeah, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
So I think we just added one a couple of weeks ago. So, there's more where this came from.
Yep. And we also say we're going to do it until it's not fun. We're still having fun.
We're still having fun. Yes. So
hop on our broom, fly around with us.
Join us while we're sitting around the cauldron, stirring our cauldron
for season 5.
I know the next time I'm going to have to click that button.
Have to click that button.
Season 5.
So we'll see y'all at season 5 for Witchy Wit.
Witchy Wit. Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!